Good morning. We'll see if a vacationing. Oh, there he is. 1 second. We'll add him as a co-host. I'm impressed. Let's see. I sent the invite. You should be able to grab that one, sir. Perhaps. Maybe. There he is. Look at him.
Hello.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello.
Hello from a fucking boiling hot Croatia. I'm part man, part puddle.
It is very hot from the looks of it. I don't know.
Oh,
I've never been there before.
yeah, I am melting, but the beers are cold, so that's all that matters. But anyway, enough
Yes.
about my vacation. If anyone's a bit weirded out why it's Angie is the main host today, it's because quite frankly I'm not trusting the Croatian Wi-Fi or
Right.
4G, 5G, whatever it is. But as usual, welcome to the Grain Market Blast, where Angie sets Glamorous with a capital G will be talking us through the latest market-moving news, pricing and flows in agricultural markets. As usual, legal-wise, don't use anything we're saying as trade advice or anything like that. That's not what we're here for. We're just here to be educated by the amazing Angie. Let's be honest, if you're putting trades on because of what we're saying, and that's the only reason you're doing it, you probably need to consult a doctor. But anyway,
It's your own
Angie,
fault. I don't know
how
what
are
to tell
you
you.
doing, my love?
I'm super. Thanks for
Thanks
asking.
for
It's
asking.
Tuesday. It is a Tuesday. We have a big USDA report out. And so I'm either looking forward to it or not looking forward to it. I guess I'll let you know after the numbers come out
But
if that's the
you are
case.
doing your usual,
Yes.
your usual awesome Spaces event with
Yes.
Carl on this, right?
Yes, sir. We will do the live drop, so you'll get to hear me, tell you if I'm cool with what the USDA had to say, or if I, maybe cry a little. I don't know. I probably won't cry a little this one. I'll probably curse more than anything, but we don't know. We'll see, and we'll kind of touch on obviously what to expect there. But yeah, it's a good day. I'm hoping we get a rain. We really, really, really need a shot of rain. Definitely went backwards last week while we were gone. So fingers crossed we have a chance of that. We have the USDA numbers. So, I'm ready to get hurt again, I guess is where I'm at here on Tuesday. Ready to rock and roll. But, wanted to kind of start this morning. Obviously yesterday was a big day with the China, Trump tweet or Trump Truth Social post, which, to be completely honest, like, did the bean market really rally 100% because of the Truth Social post? Probably not. There is some leaning towards hotter and drier conditions to finish out the month of August. We do have some Eastern Corn Belt issues that are, potentially popping up here. I think that could have helped to support that market to a certain extent as all right, phone call. But I think there were a
Do you
few
know what? For a
just,
second, for a split
yeah.
second, I thought that Croatian
Right.
broadband is
Oh,
gone.
darn it. No, phone call. And then it took me a minute to realize that there was a phone call. That's what it's actually a trader friend of mine. And, he just is reading me the riot act on the voicemail to text on the right to voicemail. So that's fun. But I wanted to talk about the reality of China bean buying, right? So like yesterday, the Trump tweet, quadruple bean imports, from the US. Like first things first, is that even possible? No, it's not. Last year, China imported, upwards of 825 million bushels of soybeans from the U.S. in particular. In order for them to triple that, basically it would supersede all of our export book that's currently projected and eat into the crush demand that we've worked so hard, to really kind of cultivate here domestically. That's actually not what we would like to see. And so there was a lot of argument yesterday of, 4 times 0 still 0, hardy har, like third grade math whizzes wanting to show off, which was, I'm impressed. Congratulations.
So meanwhile, I'm writing 8000135. Turn
Right?
upside down.
You're like 80085 is what,
Right. So,
but,
yeah, or 8008, and then you get 2 calculators, and then you got a pair of them.
Look at that. So
Hey.
that's the third grade math that I'm talking about. But, so when it comes down to it though, what is reality? And the biggest thing I want to really look at when it comes to what is expectation versus what people are talking about is I think we're ignoring the fact that the USDA is already, speaking about soybeans in particular here, the USDA is already anticipating 120 million bushel reduction in new crop soybean exports year over year. It's a pretty big reduction. And so everyone's kind of like, oh, China's not going to import 4 times what they imported last year. We're going to be set up for disappointment. In reality, based on what we're looking at market structure wise, when it comes to demand for non-China, importing countries, and all of these other factors, the U.S. is probably going to meet the USDA's current expectations. In reality, all you need is the rest of the world to stay consistent, and China imports 600 million bushels from the U.S. in the next 6 months, really to kind of get there. Now, if you look at what China needs or what is projected when it comes to typical usage and crush demand and all of these other things, right now, AgriInvest estimates that they do need 17 million metric tons of additional soybeans, or 600 million bushels, 625 million bushels, just to get them to the end of the year. Now, obviously, you've got Argentina, you've got Paraguay, you've got a handful of beans, in other places. You've got some, other exports that can come out, but nothing that's really going to hold a candle to the U.S. And so, right now, everyone is very panicked about the lack of China interest entirely. I get it. I understand it. They're basically 60% covered for October at this point in time, which I'd said 2-3 weeks ago, right? If they started buying for October from Brazil, I'd be a little bit, and they did. But at the same time, you've got some optional origin potential there. You've also got, basically a wide open last half October, November, December, January, sort of purchase book. And so, why I'm saying all of this, is I feel like we've really kind of lost, like we need to go out and touch grass to a certain extent, simply because, yes, right now there is very limited, bean demand. It's kind of been a function in this market. This cash market has been one where, the end user has been assuming or anticipating lower prices are coming, with big supply. And so they're not getting engaged. We're not seeing the extended coverage, the deferred coverage like we used to see. And so there's a lot of factors at play there that I think we have to keep watching. And really one of the other things too is if you look at old crop soybean demand. So last year, the USDA, was anticipated, where was I? Like a 1.865, excuse me, they were 1.815, I think last year or whatever. I have to pull up all the numbers, but basically we've had to increase U.S. soybean exports over the past marketing season. A year ago at this time, we were having this very same conversation of, oh my God, Brazil's going to eat our lunch on exports, yada, yada, yada. And right now, honestly, they don't have significant supply availability going forward. So the reality is China going to come in and buy 3 billion bushels of soybeans or quadruple their purchases? Absolutely not. It would completely disrupt the market. It's the last thing we really want to push. Like it is asinine in that regard. But could we start to see them perk their heads up and get some purchases covered and things like that? That's what we really need to see. But I think, more than anything right now, to me, what I'm paying attention to is this NVIDIA chip thing, because I think part of the reason that you saw the market rally, Sunday into Monday, you're talking about some adjustments to China tax policy that would help to, increase consumption. But then you also had that whole agreement where we would remove export controls to allow the NVIDIA H2O chip and something out of AMD, and as long as revenue went to the US. Well, now China is saying, hey, don't use that H2O chip. It has got a back
Right.
end security issue.
So I'm so glad you read. Well, obviously you were listening to the morning blast with myself and Michael this morning. So my theory behind this is
Mm-hmm.
China have done this just to wind Trump up because
Yeah.
So Trump has obviously been pulling his hair out about trying to restrict the licenses to sell them to China. There's obviously been a ton of back and forth between Trump's administration and Trump and Nvidia. In the end, he's gone, okay, right, you can sell it to them, but we want 15%. And then
Yes.
China's gone, because China know there's been a lot of time wasted on this. And they're gone,
Yes.
actually, do you know what? We're going to tell our people not to buy them
We don't
anyway.
want to use it anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's proper like Uno reversed it.
It's yes. And so there's a lot of I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who wins what there. But I do think part of the positive trade Sunday into Monday was the idea that if we did remove export controls, then that
Yes.
does open
Yeah,
up
definitely.
a freer flow of movement between the two countries. To see Beijing say, stop using that H2O chip takes away some of that, so to me, is the Trump tweet saying we're going to quadruple purchases behind much of the strength saw yesterday? I don't really think so. It's not possible. But it was a fun little conversation to have. And I liked coming back from vacation and being like, hell yeah, like, can I get one? Yeah. So anyway, we'll see, how that all plays out. But, we got another 90-day extension. And so like you guys said this morning, only 14 more 90-day extensions And we're on the other side, I guess,
Well,
at
yeah,
this point.
that to be fair, yeah, a great stat by Michael Brown. 14 more 90-day extensions, and then Trump's out of office anyway.
We'll see what happens from there. But looking ahead, though, like I said, noon Eastern time period, we have the USDA update. Lots of folks coming into this with big yield expectations. Most everyone that I'm reading from an analyst sort of standpoint is like, yeah, average trade guess is 184.3, but I'm really expecting it to be much higher. I am struggling with this. I'm struggling with it in a big way. I just kind of am sitting in the corner. Rocking myself saying curse words a lot of times when I see these types of conversations, simply because of just the idea of what it would take to accomplish some of these yield numbers that we're saying. And so I realize that NDVI data has been record high and that the crop conditions are super solid. But when you talk to farmers out there, it's not quite the same. And I might have a bit of backyarditis because I'm in the Eastern Corn Belt. But like if you look at StoneX's estimate, they had the Michigan tide as a record high. There's no way in hell. We're not even sniffing that, even coming close to it. I have growers that have dryland corn on the west side of the state that isn't even going to put ears on. That was a record, for that farm a year ago. And so, I'm not speaking, for the entire Corn Belt by any means, but you look at this forecast here for the next, couple of weeks, like you've got some real, issues that we may run into. But that, probably doesn't show up today. The one thing that does give me caution, or one thing that I think, you're probably going to come in closer to the average trade guess than not, is that it is a farmer survey. And so I think most farmers, you may have a handful of them out there that are going to be expecting more, better production. You have a handful that'll probably be expecting lesser. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see yield come in line with where the USDA, where they were a year ago at that 183 level. But trade is expecting a 184.3. They're expecting harvested acres to remain unchanged. It maybe shift just slightly lower. But then once you put all the math together and all the other factors, it looks like they're expecting demand to be cut as well, because they are anticipating a 1.9 billion bushel corn carryout. That would be one of the largest increases from July to August that we've seen, over the last 20 years or whatever, up 240 million bushels. So, it'll be interesting to see what the USDA has to say about that. It'll be interesting to see how they tackle some of this demand, because we've had some, pretty exceptional demand. We have the second largest corn export book on, in the last at least decade, if not on record, and a few other things out there. In July, they were 1.6. Traders are expecting it to be 1.9 today. They're anticipating soybean yield, to go up as well, which is interesting to me. But everyone's anticipating that. They expect carryout to come in slightly higher from last month, up about 39 million, give or take. Wheat is expected to come in slightly lower. And then world carryout is expected to kind of have some adjustments there. There's talk you could see the Brazil crop increased, but corn exports lowered. So that would be a point of interest. We'll obviously be watching Russian wheat, production expectations and some of these other things as well. But for the most part, today's going to be a big day. The biggest thing I'm going to be looking at is acreage, because that will have a huge influence on, obviously overall production. If we see a swing in acres, we had 3.6 million acres of corn that were unplanted in the middle of June this year. I argue that farmer sentiment, market prices, and weather, were less conducive to, planting than what you saw a year ago, during which we lost 1 million acres. So the acreage number is going to be the biggest thing I look at. Next in line will be yield, of course, and then look to the ending stocks number, which will be a big one, likely set direction, and yeah, yeehaw, giddy up. That'll be the biggest thing we'll be watching today.
Absolutely wonderful as always. Thank you very much, my darling Angie. Listeners, again, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate you. To be honest, no one learns as much about the markets, agricultural markets, as me when we do these shows. So regardless of what you all get from it, I get a hell of a lot. But Angie, honestly, thank you so much. I'm going to go and get a very cold lager and maybe dabble my toes in the sea. Listeners, whatever you're doing, stay safe, keep it tight, and we will see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Have a good one.